Just the place for a snark.
The bellman cried as he landed his crew with care, supporting each man on the top of the tide by a finger entwined in his hair.
Just the place for a snark. I have said it twice. That alone should encourage the crew. Just the place for a snark. I have said it thrice. What I tell you 3 times is true.
These people, a bellman, a barrister, a butcher, a boots, the broker, who's a monk, couldn't get away, a banker, a maker of bonnets, a beaver, and a baker, and a billiard marker, whose skill is immense, who didn't turn up, have travelled all the way from Newcastle to the river at Guildford. They brought with them, as every snark hunter should, thimbles, forks, a railway share, soap, an insurance against hail, and of course, hope. Snark hunting is, if nothing else, a serious business, and so these people have travelled all the way from Newcastle to Guildford because, well, perhaps we'd better let them explain. Mr. Baker?
Hello.
Why Guildford?
Why not?
Conversely, why?
We come to Guildford today because 100 years ago Lewis Carroll was here. He was walking on the hills and suddenly a line of verse came into his mind. For the snark was a boojum, you see. And
that's the end of the poem?
That's the end of the poem. That was the part he wrote first.
Really?
And
you're quite sure the idea came to him on the Downs on precisely July the 18th, 100 years
exactly 100 years ago today. It's well documented.
Is it?
And we're celebrating that today. That's why we're here.
Uh-huh. That seems a fair reason.
I think it's a very good reason for being here.
Do you think you'll find a snark?
I hope not. As the baker, I've got a vested interest in not finding the snark, in fact.
Because if the snark is a boojum, you vanish, correct?
Softly and suddenly vanish away.
But if it's that dangerous, why do you do it?
Well, I told the crew, I told them before we embarked that it was dangerous, but they insisted that I came. I told them in Hebrew, I told them in Dutch, I told them in German and Greek. But I wholly forgot, and it vexes me much that English was what they spoke.
I think you're a very brave baker. Mr. Banker, tell us again the significance of today.
Well, it was precisely 100 years ago today, on the Downs, that a snark was not found.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Boots, you've actually published a learned work which boldly states on the cover the hunting of the snark from its inspiration on July the 18th, 1874. You don't actually say 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, if he'd recorded when it was, then that would have been on the cover as well.
Yes, that's the only thing that's missing, because that is extraordinarily precise, isn't it? I mean, exactly today.
Yes, Lewis Carroll was very precise about everything, bibliographically.
I mean, you're quite sure that this extraordinary line, the snark was a boojum, you see, came to him on the Downs?
Yes, 13 years later, he obviously thought this momentous event must be recorded, and he recorded that it was on July the 18th, 1874, that he was walking on the Downs when the line came into his mind, for the snark was a boojum, you see. He tells us he knew not what it meant then, and he knew not what it meant now. But he wrote it down, and 4 days later completed the last verse, and then wrote the rest of the poem to explain it.
Rather long gap between the inspiration and the writing of the poem.
He liked to write things down and then think about it, I think, quietly over the next few days, to get it completely right.
You're quite clear in your own mind.
Yes, indeed.
You're a doctor, aren't you?
A doctor, yes.
Yes. All right. If you met a snark, would you recognize it if you did so?
Oh, indeed, yes. There are 5 main characteristics by which one can recognize snarks. Let us take them in order. The first is the taste, which is meagre and hollow but crisp, like a coat that is rather too tight in the waist with a flavour of will-o'-the-wisp.
Yeah. Are you a doctor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Could I have the next characteristic?
Second, its habit of getting up late, you'll agree, that it carries too far when I say that it frequently breakfasts at 5 o'clock tea and dines on the following day.
Now, you're Beaver, aren't you?
That's correct.
Yes, you've got a beaver hat. I don't quite see how it marries with the tails you're wearing.
Well, I felt that beavers have tails.
Yes. Thank you. Are you a doctor?
Yes.
Yes. Could I have the next characteristic, please?
Yes, well, the third characteristic is its slowness. You see. The third is its slowness in taking a jest. Should you happen to venture on one, it will sigh like a thing that is deeply distressed, and it always looks grave at a pun.
You're a doctor also?
I am,
Yes. Can you tell me why you've got that soap?
Well, this, as I would like to point out, is an integral part of any snark hunting itinerary. You've got to have soap, and you've got to have smiles, plenty of forks.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Right. Thank you very much. The other characteristic, please, Mr. Bellman.
Its fondness for bathing machines, though. The fourth is its fondness for bathing machines, which it constantly carries about. It believes that they add to the beauty of scenes, a sentiment open to doubt.
Can you give me the last characteristic?
The fifth is ambition.
That's it.
Get out of that one.
Well, that's very instructive and educational. Educate me some more. Tell me about this Snark Society. I mean, what's it about? What sort of a society is it?
Well, the Snark Club, you've heard of the Athenaeum?
Yes.
Well, it's nothing like that.
Fine. Now, it can't be a very big society, presumably, because you're limited to precise numbers.
We're limited to 10 members who've joined us over the past 6 years that we've been in existence.
Hunting the snark.
Hunting the snark every
Mostly
year.
up north, I gather.
We always meet in Newcastle once a year.
Yes. Good snark country?
Plenty of chasms and crags. Very good snark country, really.
And so, 100 years to the day that the snark was not sighted, the hunt continues on the downs above Guildford. For the snark was a boojum, you see.